members here at the Center for Young Musicians, and I just wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about some of the more frequently asked questions we have regarding piano and piano lessons when students enroll or when they're trying to decide what's best for them. So first I wanted to talk a little bit about purchasing a piano and the difference between an acoustic piano versus a digital piano, because a lot of times when families enroll, they say, well, we have a digital piano at home, is that okay? Or we're still shopping, we don't have anything yet, is that okay? Really, there's nothing better than an acoustic piano, and we're always going to sort of push that with our piano students versus the digital piano. However, it is a big investment, and we don't want people to jump into something like that without really having their research done. So with the differences between a digital piano and an acoustic piano, the differences lie in the action of the keyboard and the really fine mechanism, the pedal, the way the pedal works inside the acoustic piano is like, it's unparalleled. The digital keyboards these days are getting very close to what the acoustic piano can do. They have really great instruments out there, electronic instruments, but nothing is as good as the piano. And the reason we push the piano so much is because the students will perform and have their lessons on the acoustic piano here, and all their performances are on a real piano. So if what they're doing in their lesson is the same as what they're doing at home, it just makes it more fulfilling for them. The motivation comes obviously when they have a real instrument at home, that they can sit down at a real piano just like at their lesson and do the same exact thing. It makes a big difference. So we're always going to push for the acoustic piano. However, they've come up with some really great technologies with the digital piano, and I think that maybe for the first year or two it's fine to have a digital keyboard as long as the weighted action aspect is there, and as long as there's a pedal, the kids will do pretty fine for the first couple years on that before making the switch to an acoustic piano. It's just like car shopping. When you're shopping for a piano, you want to do your research and you want to really shop around. Just like cars, there's the best of the best with pianos, the Steinway & Sons, you can't get better than that. And then below that you have Yamaha and Kawai and Baldwin. Those are kind of the trustworthy brands you want to stick to when you are looking into purchasing a piano. Yamaha makes both a great digital keyboard as well as, you see these uprights we have in the school, and they have grands and baby grands. In terms of purchasing a piano or a digital keyboard, we recommend our students going to a couple of different places here in Pittsburgh. One is Modern Piano right up the road here off of 19 toward Cranberry. They offer all of those brands I just covered, Steinway, Yamaha, Kawai, and Baldwin, and they have uprights, they have grands, they have baby grands, they have the digital keyboards with all of those functions that I was just discussing. And they work within your price point. They're not, piano pushers by any means. They kind of listen to each customer and want to get a good fit for everybody. Another place that we recommend is the Pittsburgh Opera Piano Sale that they hold every year, typically around August. So the Pittsburgh Opera gets a shipment of Kawai grand and baby grand pianos every year. And they use them for a full year, and then they get a new shipment, so they sell off their previous shipment in this piano sale. It's usually, like I said, it's usually in August. They have more brands than just Kawai's. This past year they had Yamahas, Baldwins, and Mason and Hamlins as well. And again, uprights and grands, and I think they even had some digital ones as well. And so that sale is really great. It's by appointment only, so if you just plug it in, they don't have the dates announced just yet, but if you do your research and make an appointment, it's a really great place to look for a really great piano that's been gently used by a wonderful organization just for 1 year. So that's another place that I recommend. So then once the families have enrolled with us, oftentimes we get the question of what should we sign up for? Should our kids do Suzuki? Should they try the traditional approach? And really, it just depends on what the family is looking for. Each method is perfect for different types of families. The traditional method, the typical beginner with the traditional method is around 6 years old. The emphasis with the traditional method is on note reading from the beginning. And I was going to pull out the books, and I did not pull out the books. I can do so when Mr. Christopher is talking. But we have the Faber Piano Adventures method books that we use regularly with our traditional students. And as I said, the emphasis is on the student reading from the page. So this is great for the more independent student, one that can handle reading everything that's on the page and making sense of it on their own. Parental involvement is so encouraged and appreciated. However, it's not mandatory. With the best case scenario is the child feels confident enough with what we do in the lesson and reading from the page that they can go home and practice on their own without necessarily needing mom or dad to walk them through everything. By the end of about 2 years of study with the traditional method, students would have typically completed about 3 levels of the method books. And the pieces within the first year are primarily melody-based. The melodies pass back and forth between the hands, but again, they're reading everything from the page, getting used to the concepts, the terminology, the notes, the geography of the piano. By the end of the second year, the students are playing more melody and harmony at the same time. So it happens in stages, but within the first couple of years, the kids are playing 2 different things in each hand. And because they're reading from the page on their own, a lot of the work then is done at home in terms of note reading, and then during the lessons here, we work on musicality, we work on bringing out a beautiful tone, and working on dynamics and other elements of the music that maybe the child can't do on their own. Now, the other avenue that families can take with piano lessons is the Suzuki method. So the typical beginner for the Suzuki method is around 4 years old. And the Suzuki method is, there's an emphasis on learning by ear and learning by rote. With this method, the parental involvement is mandatory. The parents need to be inside the lessons every single week because they are basically going to copy and emulate what we do in the lessons every single day at home with the student. And so the parent becomes the at-home teacher. The repertoire that we have in the first book of the Piano Suzuki method, it's all primarily classical, and the kids are playing hands together, melody and accompaniment from right off the bat, as opposed to how I was saying in the traditional method. It's basically all just melody being passed back and forth with the traditional, but the beginning Suzuki student is able to play accompaniment with the melody at the same time. Note reading then comes in later when the child is getting more and more comfortable with reading at school or at home. Then the transition to note reading comes into play. So usually halfway through book 1, we're starting to read from the page, and we use the books, the Faber Piano Adventures books I was discussing earlier. By the end of the second year, the child is playing roughly 10 pieces from memory with Alberti bass or some sort of accompaniment in the left hand and a good understanding of a singing tone and dynamics, and playing legato or connected with the right hand. Really, it comes down to the similarities between the methods, because either method, regardless of which one you choose, our goal is to create well-rounded, self-sufficient musicians. And that includes learning by ear, that includes listening, that includes reading from the page. We want all of our students, regardless of how they get there, to have those qualities as a musician. With both methods, consistent daily practice is expected and assumed. So within the first year of piano studies, every student should be practicing about 30 minutes a day, with or without their parents' help, depending on the method. Repetition is used with either method. So with the Suzuki method, we might ask the child to review one portion of Light Libro. So there might be one little bit in the piece when Alberti bass is introduced, that they just take that little bit and they're going to drill that 20 times a day, every day during the week, and come back and show us. Whereas in the traditional method, it might be 2 measures of one piece that they're going to drill 20 times a day over and over. So that drilling and that repetition is really, it's really apparent in both methods. And the performance goals are similar with our students, either Suzuki method or the traditional method. Both students are going to have the same performance goals to work toward. We have plenty of performances throughout the year. Whichever method you're using, you have the same goals to work toward, whether it's a Christmas concert or the solo concert or a duet recital. They're all working toward the same thing. So it's really just dependent upon how much the family is willing to either be present in the lessons, or if it's more a child-driven activity. It just sort of depends on the family. So I hope I've given you guys some good information, and I am here for questions in case any of you have any questions about anything I've said. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Chris.
Hi. So I'm Chris, and I teach violin here at the Center for Young Musicians. And I thought I would just kind of talk to you guys and tell you about my musical journey and my story. And with the overall idea of why I think private violin or instrumental lessons are really important even at a really young age. So I don't know why I wanted to play the violin, but I just remember being like 4 years old and I wanted to play the violin. But my mom was like, I don't know where to get a violin. There's no violin teachers anywhere around here. So I couldn't do it until 4th grade when I was 9 years old because my school had an orchestra program, or a string program, really. And that's kind of like the norm for most young musicians, especially for string players, is you start playing when you are in school, in the orchestra or in the string ensemble. Now, I specifically took my master's in Suzuki pedagogy, which is very similar to what Simmi was talking about with the Suzuki piano. It's all under the same Dr. Suzuki philosophy of teaching the child how to be the most that he or she can be. And with Suzuki violin lessons, they start anywhere from 3 to 4. But you could be later too. You could start when you're 9, but typically it's when you're 3 to 4. And going throughout my violin playing, I always wish that I had started when I was 3 or 4 or something like that, because I really loved music so much and I had my own desire to practice and perform. But I wish I had these opportunities that as a private teacher I'm able to give to my students now, which is individualized instruction and creating this bond between teacher and student. And if the parents or family are involved, it's almost like the teacher becomes part of the family. We see them once a week or sometimes twice a week, because in Suzuki we also offer these group classes where people in the same level of musical abilities come together and they share their music, they work on different things. But we see these students once a week, twice a week, from if they start when they're 3 to when they graduate high school. So we see them for a really long time, so it really becomes this like beautiful, personal thing that sometimes you can't always get in a public school setting, just because sometimes you might go to like one middle school, then you go to another middle school, then you go to a high school. So not that that's a bad thing, because that's kind of how my upbringing was. But I knew what I wanted, so I was very striveful. Is that a word? Striveful? Striveful?
No, it is now.
No, none of those words. So I really wanted to be the type of teacher that I felt I didn't get enough of when I was younger. And so that's why I think private instruction at an early age is really beneficial. It's not for everyone, and I understand that, but I think it's really great to experience and to try it out before you decide not to do it. I guess that's the moral of my little philosophy. But yeah, I think we're gonna have our performances now.
I think so, we are. Yes.
Miss Leah, I think we're ready to perform.
And I did grab the piano method books in case anybody wants to flip through them if you're not yet familiar with what a traditional method book would look like for piano.